Welcome back, Defenders. Yesterday was officially the 3-year anniversary of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. To start today's video, I want to share with you Klitschko's video. This is the message he put out on the 3-year anniversary.
3 years ago to the day the Russians attacked my country. The experts gave us 3 days. Luckily, they were all wrong. I say luckily, but we stood our ground at the cost of immense sacrifice and suffering. Thanks to our military and our willpower, we still resist today. We resist despite our numerical inferiority, despite the barbarity of daily attacks, despite massive propaganda. This propaganda, with its lies, has one aim: to weaken the democracies, to weaken the truth and the facts. So here are the facts. Putin's Russia is a dictatorship. Russia started this war. Ukraine is only the appetizer. The rest of Europe is on the menu of Russian imperialism. My American friends, do not make Russia great again, because it will make the Cold War great again. My European friends, if Russia wins, Europe loses too. Together, we can defend our values, our borders, and our continent. Slava Ukraini.
All the Western military experts said that Ukraine would only last 3 days, 2 weeks tops. And here we are 3 years later. This is an interesting graphic put out by Ukraine's Ministry of Defense showing Russia's losses and casualties year over year. The lightest color is the first year. So in the first year of the war, Russia took 146,000 casualties. The second year of the war, Russia took 262,000 casualties. And this most recent year, the third year, Russia has sustained 459,000 casualties. This war is getting deadlier as time goes on. Who knows how deadly this war will be this year? I hope this war comes to a conclusion. I hope there's a lasting peace and ceasefire. But if there's not, yes, I'm going to estimate that this number is going to be higher if we reach the 4-year anniversary of this war. And here's where we are, guys. After 3 years of war, Ukraine is in an absurd position, thanks to Donald Trump and the United States. Kyiv says they're making progress with Washington on a resource deal. Zelensky has so far rejected Trump's team's demand to trade minerals for security, but said Friday that both countries are working on a deal and will likely announce it soon. And it's a mafia shakedown, guys. Your minerals or your aid. US holds Ukraine hostage while Russia continues to bomb them. And here's the text. This has been released to the public. I'll link this down below if you want to read the resource deal for yourself. And my initial position was, I'll support whatever President Zelensky supports. He has all the information, I do not. But the more I look at this and the more I think about it, this is insane. This is absurd. Now, initially, the United States was saying we're going to have a resource fund where 50% of all of Ukraine's resource revenues pay the United States back up to $500 billion. That was laughable because there was no incentive for the United States to continue providing aid to Ukraine. So the United States revised the agreement saying, for every $1 of future aid given to Ukraine, Ukraine has to put $2 into this fund that the United States controls. That is a 100% return on your money for continuing to support Ukraine. And that sounds good in that there's now an incentive for the United States to keep providing military and financial aid. But a 100% rate of return? The mafia doesn't even charge a 100% interest rate on loans given to people. Why can't it be for every $2 put in, 3 goes back, or every $3 put in, 4 goes back? A 25% return on your money is still enough of an incentive for the United States to continue supporting Ukraine. And when President Zelensky suggested this idea, the whole thing about security guarantees for Ukraine's resources, I imagine Zelensky was envisioning a 1-for-1. the United States, all of their money will be returned to them because of Ukraine's natural resources. But this is a mafia shakedown in which Donald Trump is trying to maximize personal benefits for himself. And when we talk about aid, what are we talking about? If the United States were to give Ukraine $1, and then in the future Ukraine had to pay them back $2, okay, it might take time to pay them back. That makes sense. But a lot of the military aid that the United States has provided Ukraine has been spent entirely in the United States. We give Ukraine old weapons that are going to be decommissioned anyways, from the 80s and 90s, Bradleys that were built 40 years ago. We then use the money allocated as military aid for Ukraine to build brand new stuff in today's dollars here in the United States. So why would Ukraine pay a 200% rate in today's dollars for the United States to build the best equipment for themselves, and then we just give them stuff that's 40 years old? Everything about this resource deal is pretty offensive and nonsensical, and I'm going to give my opinion. My personal advice to President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people is just tell Donald Trump no. If it's not going to be a fair deal, it's not a deal worth having. And on top of all of it, the United States is still opposing the inclusion of security guarantees for this rare earth deal, which is the entire point of the deal. Ukraine is looking for security guarantees so Russia stops attacking them. Let me read for you President Zelensky's statement on this issue. Security guarantees are also about economic agreements. There is a lot of media talk about this, about our work with the Americans to reach such an agreement. We all need peace, long-lasting and a reliable one, and we want a good economic deal that will be part of a true security guarantee system for Ukraine and the free world. Our teams are working every day and we are making great progress. Ukraine wants a strong agreement, one that guarantees security and lays a solid foundation for economic partnership with the U.S. for decades to come. Fair terms produce strong results. Nothing about Donald Trump's business history has ever screamed fair terms producing strong results. That's just not how Donald Trump operates. He's a bully and a parasite who's just trying to exploit Ukraine right now. So my advice to the Europeans is offer a better deal. I know it is personally offensive to human rights and dignity to say, we're only going to help you if you give us money and stuff. But if that's what it takes to fund completely all of Ukraine's military needs, then the Europeans need to do something. So on the 3-year anniversary of Russia's invasion, NATO leadership arrived in Kyiv to show their support. This was not just a European thing. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada was there, so if the United States wanted to send somebody, Marco Rubio or Donald Trump himself or even J.D. Vance, they could have done it. But on the 3-year anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion, the United States sent no one to show their support for Ukraine, because the Trump administration does not support Ukraine. Here is a normal statement for the leader of a free and democratic nation to put out to show their support for Ukraine. This is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. 3 years ago, Russia launched its illegal full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I'm in Kyiv today to meet with President Zelensky and show that Canada stands with Ukraine, now and always. This tweet has 102,000 likes. It is popular with the public to be supporting Ukraine. And President Trump put out no such statement. He did not recognize or acknowledge the 3-year anniversary of Russia's brutal invasion because he publicly blames Ukraine. Right now, this week, he is publicly saying it's Ukraine's fault this war started. Ukraine never should have allowed Russia to invade them in the first place. What kind of tweet did Trump put out on the 3-year anniversary? Stuff about Macron, blah, 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 but here is the important part at the bottom. I am in serious discussions with President Vladimir Putin of Russia concerning the ending of the war and also major economic development transactions that will take place between the United States and Russia. Talks are proceeding very well. What the hell is he talking about? Trump says he's discussing major economic deals with Putin, and Putin confirms it. Putin is offering 2 million tons of aluminum to the United States to stabilize the price of aluminum on the market here in America. This is insane. Let me read for you what Putin says. The main importer today is Canada. If a decision is made to open the American markets to our manufacturers, then we could sell about 2 million tons of aluminum on the American market. This would have a significant impact on price formation, but in my opinion, it would still have a deterrent effect on price stabilization. The United States is trying to make economic deals and free trade agreements with Putin and the Russians. Putin says he's ready for U.S. investment in strategic minerals in the occupied territories. Putin said in televised comments that Russia was ready to work with foreign partners, including Americans, on developing reserves of rare and rare earth metals, including in our new regions, referring to the regions of Ukraine controlled by Russia. American companies are going to partner with the Russians to get Ukraine's natural resources out of the occupied territories? So Russia invaded these oblasts, took them by force, killed hundreds of thousands of people, and American companies, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, are going to partner with the Russian government to make a profit and get these resources out of the occupied territories. This is what Trump and Putin are currently discussing. Do you think the Russians are going to pay Trump 2-to-1 on getting resources out of the occupied territories? The deal that Trump is demanding from Zelensky to get their resources out of the ground in the territory not occupied by the Russians. This is insane. These talks happening in Saudi Arabia, they're not peace talks. They're trade negotiations. Donald Trump is using the war between Russia and Ukraine as an opportunity to enrich himself. He's going to the Ukrainians and saying, "What's the most you can give me? I want it." And he's going to the Russians saying, "What's the most you can give me? I want as much as I can take." This has nothing to do about human rights or human suffering or the sovereignty of nations or democratic values. It's just about dollars. This is soulless, guys. As an American citizen, this is offensive that my government is even doing this. Here is the thoughts from Ambassador Michael McFaul. So Trump is willing to abdicate America's role as the leader of the free world for an aluminum deal. Wow. The America I love stands for more in this world than just business deals for oligarchs. We are a nation founded on the ideals of liberty, freedom, and democracy. We cannot allow Trump to turn us into a pedestrian, land-grabbing, profit-seeking empire. We fought a revolution against that. Sorry to my British viewers, but this is about empire, and it's about subjugating weaker nations into resource colonies. This is what the Russians want, and this is what Donald Trump wants and is currently doing to Ukraine, and what they want to do to Canada, and what they want to do to Greenland, and Panama, and whoever the United States decides is weak enough to take advantage of next. The Russians are still saying they will only end their Ukraine war on their terms. Russia is saying we want everything that we can possibly get, and Donald Trump is saying yes to everything in exchange for an aluminum deal so that Donald Trump can have a trade war with Canada, economically destroy Canada, and then subjugate the Canadians into becoming the 51st state of America or a new territory. This is comic book evil levels of stupidity, guys, that Donald Trump is trying to maneuver right now. This is absurd. I'm asking every decent American who possibly sees or hears this to resist. Contact your representatives, show up at town hall events, do not leave your members of Congress alone until Donald Trump abandons this trajectory of just stupidity and evil and callousness. But this is what Trump's base wants. This was a comment left on my YouTube channel yesterday by a Trump supporter. US and Russia together are an unstoppable force. Fuck the rest of you. This is where we are. Donald Trump lied about everything to get into office. If you're a Trump supporter or a Trump voter and you are horrified by what is currently happening with our foreign policy, you were lied to. This was always the plan. This was always the plan of people like Elon Musk, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard. Let's militarily ally with the Russians and then divide up the world. We could be a lot richer that way if we just ignored the UN Charter and international law and we stopped giving a damn about human rights and democratic values. So Europe, we really need you. Peace must not mean a surrender of Ukraine. French President Macron visited Trump. Thank you. This is important. We need more European leaders to try and speak to Trump and get to him directly. And there's some highlights from the press conference. I think this was almost 2 days ago now. Trump refused to call Putin a dictator, saying, "I don't use those words lightly." I'm not going to play this clip because seeing and hearing President Trump upsets a lot of people. But Trump was asked by a reporter, "Is Vladimir Putin a dictator?" And Trump said, "I would never say that. I don't use those words lightly." Meanwhile, he just called President Zelensky a dictator a couple days ago. Macron also had to correct Trump on the spot. "We provided real money, to be clear." Macron interrupts the conference with Trump in a touching moment. In an awkward gesture, the French president puts his hand on Trump's arm and corrects him that Europe has also given money to Ukraine, not tied to loans, and reminds him that Russia is the aggressor. So I am going to play this clip because this is Donald Trump trying to lie, saying that the Europeans are only giving aid to Ukraine in the form of secured loans. That's a lie, and Macron, sitting right there, had to speak up. He had to correct the lies of the President of the United States.
Compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear.
Yeah.
We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day and Russia will have paid for that.
If you
This is my
believe
wish.
that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President.
They get
So Trump is referring to this G7 loan where frozen Russian assets are accumulating interest. European countries are giving financial aid and loans to Ukraine that will be repaid by the interest from the frozen Russian assets in Belgium. The United States is doing the exact same thing. We agreed to that G7 plan. We just have fewer frozen Russian assets in our bank. It's only about $7 billion. But of course, the Europeans have given hundreds of billions of dollars of grants, direct financial, humanitarian, and military aid that they don't expect the Ukrainians to ever pay back. Nobody for the last 3 years has been asking Ukraine to pay anything back, aside from Donald Trump, because it's in our own national security interests that these wars don't continue, that Russia doesn't attack a NATO country next. Trump understands all this, he just doesn't care. He doesn't care who the Russians invade next, who they kill, if these wars continue, as long as the aluminum keeps pouring into US markets, apparently. That's all we care about. US opposes Ukraine territorial integrity in a UN vote. US sides with Russia in 2 UN resolutions about Ukraine. So the United States has officially flipped on the free and democratic world in their United Nations votes. Because Trump is trying to secure a good aluminum deal with Vladimir Putin, he's having the UN ambassador vote with Russia against Ukraine in the United Nations. So this was a UN General Assembly resolution calling for the withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine, and the United States voted against it. So if you're an American citizen, these are our new allies. Get to know them and love them. The Russian Federation, North Korea, Hungary, Belarus, Burundi, Nicaragua, Niger, Haiti, Palau, and Sudan. This is who the United States now votes with. China abstained. India abstained. Iran abstained from this vote. The United States could have abstained, whatever, but they wanted to send a message to Vladimir Putin. We're on your side. We got your back. We're your friend now. Here's the map. The green voted in favor of this UN resolution. The red voted against it. These are America's allies now. Hungary, Belarus, and Russia. It gets worse. Trump's move to close US base in Greece sparks debate on NATO's future. So this is the NATO base in Alexandroupolis in Greece, and this is used to supply Western weapons to Ukraine. And Donald Trump is shutting it down because this is what the Russians want. I'm sure more NATO base, American base closures are coming, as Donald Trump will happily do whatever the Russians want for a good aluminum deal. Wow. So on Kremlin State TV, they're actually pretty shocked that things are going so well for them. Here is Vladimir Solovyov. This is the latest clip from Russia Media Monitor. Solovyov says the Trump administration sounds exactly like his show. Here's what Solovyov is saying. We expect so much from Trump, but take a look at it. How harshly Trump is dealing with their former allies. We can't relax. So this is the Russians saying, if the Americans will so easily flip on the Europeans and the Canadians, well then they might flip on us, so we can't really trust Trump, but if he wants to do what we want now, great. We can't feel like we've already won. Our guys are asking me, has the war ended? I'm not a fortune teller. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it would be very naive to believe that everyone around us will run to us to make peace. We're seeing mad resistance in Europe. You want to send 30,000 peacekeepers to Russia? Addressing Macron and Starmer, I will quote the words that were spoken in the studio many times, clearly worded by the State Duma member Tolstoy. We will kill all of you. Everyone who comes to our land, it doesn't matter in what capacity, that you're trying to create for yourselves. We clearly said that NATO troops under any flag, under any pretext, are not a topic of discussion for us. They will be destroyed. We will kill all of you. Well, these are America's new allies. They sound friendly. They sound great. Here's the map, guys, that the Russians are demanding. All NATO troops, all American troops removed from Eastern Europe entirely. The Kremlin is saying we want our old borders back. We want our sphere of influence, being all of Eastern Europe, back. And either Russia is going to annex these territories after they invade them, which is what they're going to do to the Baltics and Moldova, or they want to install puppet governments that are fascist and pro-Russian and subordinate to the Kremlin. They're not going to stop until they have pro-Russian governments, fascist authoritarians in charge of Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, and Germany. But if there's democratic and free people living anywhere, that is a threat to a dictator. So the Russians are never going to stop. They want their entire sphere of influence to be the European continent, probably the Middle East too. And Donald Trump is saying, fine, the Russians can have Europe, the Chinese can have East Asia, and the United States will take North and South America. This is great power politics, spheres of influence, use military force to extract the resources and exploit the people. This is what's happening right now. So we need to continue supporting Ukraine if you want to avoid 1984 from becoming a reality. And Ukraine is still fighting back. Russia's Resign oil refinery halts operations after Ukrainian drones struck it again. This is the third strike on this oil refinery in the last month and a half, I think. And it's officially offline at the moment. The Resign oil refinery processes 262,000 barrels of oil per day. This is about 5% of Russia's total output. And the refinery at the moment is offline. For now. So where's the resistance in Russia to all this? Leningrad siege survivor stages protest in St. Petersburg on invasion anniversary. This is what terrifies dictators. Elderly women standing in a public place with a sign. I'll share the clip, but I do want to remind everyone that people in Russia could be protesting, they could be resisting. Anyone who does gets a 7-year prison sentence, so that's why they don't protest, but Russians are going along with this, except for this 83-year-old woman.
Нет права. Почему? Я житель, я человек. Да, но чуть мы не имеем права. Мы все имеем право. Мы житель, я житель этого города. Я охраняю 40 лет по кирпичику. А вы мне говорите какой-то, когда они предали нашу страну, они предали там Путина.
Okay, that was it. That was the entirety of the 3-year anniversary war protests inside of Russia. And this 83-year-old woman is probably going to go to jail now until she dies. Okay, if you made it this far in the video, I know why you're still here. You want to see some videos of donkeys being used by the Russians on the front lines. Here's a Russian soldier excited about his new donkey to help him resupply on the front lines.
Хочу поделиться криком души и познакомить вас с Юлием. Приобрели мы этого ослика в крике отчаяния. Техники, когда нет совсем. От слова абсолютно. Подвоз надо делать. У нас большое плечо подвоза, 20 километров. Ребята идут. Физически это невозможно, и не оставалось других вариантов. 40 тысяч рублей и осел в студии. Так вот воюет.
This guy spent 40,000 rubles of his own money on a donkey to get supplies to the front lines because there are no supply trucks left. Everything has been destroyed by FPV drones. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Spain has announced a €1 billion military aid package. Once again, not a secured loan. This is a grant. People are just helping Ukraine because it's the right thing to do. Thank you, Spain. Denmark announced a 2 billion Danish kroner package. Thank you so much to the fantastic people of Denmark. Sweden to transfer 113 million worth of air defense systems to Ukraine. Thank you to the incredible people of Sweden. UK unveils sweeping sanctions package on Russia and its global backers. Thank you so much to the people of the UK. Australia imposes largest sanctions package against Russia since full-scale war. Thank you so much to the people of Australia. Final clip, once again, is Ukrainian journalist Maria Avdiva giving her reports on the 3-year anniversary of Russia's invasion.
Hello from Kharkiv, Ukraine. This is the exact spot where 3 years ago I started to record my videos to tell the world about Russian war crimes, Russian atrocities, about Russian invasion. 3 years after, Ukraine stands strong, Ukraine fights, and Ukraine will prevail. Stand with Ukraine, support us. Slava Ukraini!
My advice for everyone: keep calm and carry on. Continue supporting Ukraine. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin will be defeated. The free and democratic world still has the strength. They just have to find the political will. We will get there. Americans will not stop resisting this radical redefinition of America into an imperialist empire, allied with the Russians to subjugate other countries. Just saying all this stuff out loud is insane, guys. It's just absolutely insane that this is the reality we're in now. Okay, if you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.